First question from our audience, and we've had many questions put forth up here from the audience, and a lot of them center around the same thing. Mr. Marsh, when we talk about closing the achievement gap, we know that there's a huge disparity between the test scores of students in the cities and those in the suburbs, going to schools in the suburbs. Attempts have been made to close the gap. We haven't really succeeded in that area. What would you plan to reduce and close the achievement gap?
Well, there's 2 points I want to make here. One is the reason we have such a wide gap is frankly because some of what we do very, very well. We have some high achievers, and the state needs to be proud of that, and we can look to examples on how that's met. Unfortunately, we have the other end of the spectrum as well. My running mate, Cicero Booker, alderman in the city of Waterbury, is involved with the education system there. He has lived and seen what some of the disparities happen in some of our urban centers. But again, it goes back to what I said earlier. I think there was an article in the Hartford Courant today that espoused all of the problems and we need to plan and we need to focus on. That's not what we need to do. We need to incorporate an entire program that brings family, community, schools, individual responsibility, and a motivation for a student to succeed. We keep looking at the issue in silos. Is it a social issue? Is it an education issue? Are the teachers working too hard, not hard enough? Are they coming to school ready to learn? When I served on the Early Childhood Education Council, it was frustrating to hear social issues about young children coming to school that haven't been fed well, that hadn't seen a doctor, that maybe didn't go to bed till 11 o'clock at night. The answer sometimes we're looking at is to put those concerns onto our education system. And then unfortunately what happens sometimes, and what we're spending on education doesn't have a lot to do with education. As I said earlier, we're kind of using it as a dumping ground for some of our social programs where either the federal or state legislators feel that there's a laudable goal, such as transportation issues for homeless or children that are displaced because of domestic issues. Well, the transportation could be as much as $30,000 a year, and that falls to a local school's budget. And that's disingenuous. We can't have, again, a laudable ideal to provide this quality education, but be unwilling to stand behind it. And we have to look at it as a total picture of education for our students, not a silo of a social issue or education issue and try to kick the can down the road.
Mr. Foley, on the achievement gap.
I think it's a disgrace that Connecticut, with all our resources, has the largest achievement gap in the country. I don't agree that it's because we have very many good schools and so the gap looks larger. We actually do not rank well nationally with our inner city schools, and we can do much better. I think many of the things we've been talking about here tonight are the keys to making our inner city schools better performing schools. Number one is choice. We need to have more choices for parents in school districts where the public school is not performing well. So we need more charter schools, we need more magnet schools, and we need the opportunity where those don't exist for a child to move out of the district and attend an out-of-district public school. We need excellent teachers. We need to get rid of things like tenure and things that prevent us from having as good teachers as we can have. We need to have money following the child. Right now, money is pouring into schools that are underperforming as kids are leaving those schools to go to schools that are performing. If we have money following the child, it'll work like a marketplace, and it'll tend to support schools that are doing well and not be supporting schools that are failing and they need to be reconstituted. Again, we need to track student and teacher performance and school performance, and we need to react when they aren't quickly when they aren't performing well. And when I'm governor, I'm going to appoint reform-minded people to the Board of Education, and I'll work with them to make sure we have a commissioner who's reform-minded, and we'll work toward making the changes we need to improve our inner city schools.
Mr. Malloy.
The questions about the achievement gap that exists primarily between urban areas and non-urban areas. So this is what I would do. I would do on a statewide basis what I did 11 years ago in Stamford and create a universal pre-kindergarten program on a statewide basis. Not a second year of kindergarten, but a program that steps in and makes sure that no child would be denied access to an educative experience at age 4 or age 3 because of the financial circumstances of their parents. I would look at curriculum adjustment. We know that some children simply have to pay a substantial portion of additional time on reading and math skills. And we need to adjust curriculums in each and every one of our schools in this state to reflect that reality. We also need to understand that local-based charter schools, magnet schools, and state magnet schools have shown us the way to close this gap. But what we have been unwilling to do in this state is take the lessons learned in these institutions and apply it on a broader basis to every school in the state. I'm going to champion that. I do champion it. That's why I want curriculum adjustment, as I've seen at Amistad School. That's why I want family intervention, as I've seen at the Domus-run schools. That's why I have in the same program which I talked about quality-based layoff systems, I also called for locally financed charter schools. We've got to find a way to drive home additional reformation in education and to take the lessons that we all know in this room actually work and make them work in each and every one of our schools, particularly in the urban environment.